Welcome back to Mindcast, the podcast where we dive deep into the technologies reshaping our world. I'm Will, and today we're talking about something that sounds like science fiction, but is happening right now in Memphis, Tennessee. Imagine a data center so massive, it consumes as much electricity as a small city. A supercomputer with 1 million GPUs working in perfect harmony. A facility that burns through 5.7 million gallons of water every single day. This isn't some distant future fantasy. This is xAI's Colossus 2, and Elon Musk just called it the Gigafactory of compute.
To understand why this matters, we need to talk about the AI arms race that's happening right now. In today's artificial intelligence landscape, the companies developing frontier models like ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini are all fundamentally gated by one thing: access to massive clusters of graphics processing units. As OpenAI CEO Sam Altman put it, the scaling of compute is the literal key to revenue growth and technological advancement in AI. Compute has become the primary strategic asset, and whoever has the most of it has the best shot at winning.
To understand why this compute arms race is so intense, consider what's happening with AI model performance. There's a phenomenon called scaling laws that researchers discovered. Essentially, if you double the amount of compute used to train an AI model, you get predictable improvements in performance. But here's the catch. Your competitors are also scaling up, so maintaining a lead requires exponentially more resources. OpenAI reportedly spent over $100 million training GPT-4. Anthropic's Claude models require similar investments. Google's Gemini training runs cost $200 million. At these scales, having access to the largest possible compute clusters isn't just an advantage, it's becoming a prerequisite to staying competitive. Enter xAI's Colossus 2. Musk's audacious bid to dominate this race through sheer computational supremacy. The name itself isn't accidental. It directly references the Colossus machines built at Bletchley Park during World War II, the world's first programmable electronic digital computers that helped break German codes. By invoking this legacy, xAI is framing the contemporary race for artificial general intelligence not as a simple commercial competition, but as a civilization-level endeavor akin to a war effort. The numbers behind this project are staggering. We're talking about the world's first gigawatt-scale AI data center. That's 1.1 gigawatts of power by 2027, enough electricity to power hundreds of thousands of homes. But here's what makes this even more incredible: the speed at which it's being built. xAI's first major cluster, Colossus 1, was operational in just 122 days. That's not months. That's 4 months from start to finish. Compare that to the 15 months or longer that competitors like Oracle and OpenAI typically require for similar projects. This breakneck pace is enabled by what I call the Tesla Gigafactory approach applied to data center construction. xAI isn't playing by traditional rules. When they couldn't get enough power in Memphis fast enough, they bought a former power plant across the state line in Mississippi and started generating their own electricity. Mississippi regulators gave them provisional approval to operate gas turbines for up to 12 months without full permits, regulatory flexibility that wasn't available in Tennessee. They're literally feeding electricity across state lines to power their supercomputer. Let's talk about the technology stack, because this is where things get really impressive. The heart of Colossus 2 is built around NVIDIA's most advanced GPUs. They started with 100,000 H100 chips, doubled that to 200,000, and now they're preparing for over 550,000 of NVIDIA's next-generation Blackwell architecture GPUs. The ultimate goal? 1 million GPUs in a single coherent training system. That would be 10 times larger than the initial cluster and represent the largest concentration of AI compute power ever assembled. The engineering challenges of connecting 1 million GPUs are mind-boggling. xAI chose NVIDIA's Spectrum-X Ethernet solution over traditional InfiniBand networking. Each server gets 3.6 terabits per second of networking bandwidth. During training of large Grok models, the system reportedly achieves 95% network utilization with zero packet loss. That's exceptional performance at massive scale, and it serves as major industry validation for high-performance Ethernet in AI workloads.
The engineering complexity of what xAI has accomplished cannot be overstated. When you're connecting hundreds of thousands of GPUs, every millisecond of latency matters. During distributed training, all these GPUs need to synchronize their work constantly. They're essentially sharing information about what they're learning millions of times per second. Traditional networking approaches simply can't handle this. That's why xAI's choice to use NVIDIA's Spectrum-X Ethernet architecture was so significant. They're achieving what's called collective communication at unprecedented scale. Imagine coordinating a conversation between 1 million people where everyone needs to speak and listen simultaneously, and any delay ruins the entire discussion.
But here's where it gets really interesting from a power and cooling perspective. Managing a gigawatt-scale heat load requires sophisticated solutions. xAI is using direct liquid cooling systems integrated into custom supermicro servers with specialized fluids circulating through cold plates attached directly to the GPUs and CPUs. They also have Tesla Megapacks, yes, Tesla's large-scale battery systems, acting as power buffers. The gas turbines charge the Megapacks, and the batteries provide perfectly smooth power to the training jobs, isolating the supercomputer from any grid fluctuations. Now let's talk money, because the financial scale of this project is as audacious as its technical ambitions. We're looking at tens of billions of dollars in total capital expenditure. Just the GPUs alone could cost over $20 billion. A single NVIDIA H100 costs between $25,000 and $30,000, so you can do the math on 1 million of them. And that's before servers, networking, power infrastructure, cooling, and construction costs. Since xAI generates minimal external revenue, this project is almost entirely dependent on external capital. And here's where the geopolitics get fascinating. The investor syndicate includes some of the world's largest sovereign wealth funds from the Middle East. We're talking about Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, UAE funds like MGX and Vi Capital, and the Qatar Investment Authority. These aren't just passive financial investors, they're strategic partners with their own national agendas around diversifying their economies and securing a foothold in the AI economy.
xAI has also gotten creative with financing structures. They're pursuing chip leasing arrangements, treating GPUs like commercial aircraft that can be financed, collateralized, and leased. Valor Equity Partners is arranging a $12 billion debt facility to purchase NVIDIA GPUs that would then be leased to xAI. This approach decouples the need to own the compute from the ability to use it at massive scale, which is critical when you're talking about this level of capital expenditure.
So what's all this computational power actually for? The primary workloads are training xAI's Grok family of large language models, with the ultimate goal of accelerating toward artificial general intelligence. But this isn't just a brute force approach. xAI is using sophisticated reinforcement learning at unprecedented scale to maximize what they call intelligence density, getting more reasoning capability per computational dollar spent. Their Grok Fast model reportedly achieves performance comparable to the much larger Grok 4 while using 40% fewer computational tokens on average. But this massive undertaking hasn't been without controversy. The environmental impact is staggering and has sparked significant backlash in Memphis. We're talking about 5 to 5.7 million gallons of water per day for cooling, putting strain on the local Memphis sand aquifer that's already threatened by arsenic pollution. The facility has been using dozens of temporary natural gas turbines, with investigations revealing that xAI had installed at least 35 gas turbines while having permits for only 15. These turbines emit between 1,200 and 2,000 tons of nitrogen oxides per year, potentially exceeding the emissions of Memphis International Airport. The facility is located in South Memphis, a predominantly black community that already bears a disproportionate burden of industrial pollution. Environmental groups, including the Southern Environmental Law Center and the NAACP, have filed legal actions against xAI for alleged violations of the Clean Air Act. This has framed the issue as a matter of environmental justice, with community activists arguing that the company has acted without transparency or regard for nearby residents' health.
The regulatory response to Colossus has revealed significant gaps in how governments handle rapidly scaling tech infrastructure. Traditional environmental permitting processes were designed for conventional industrial facilities that take years to plan and build. xAI's 122-day construction timeline completely bypassed these normal review periods. In Tennessee, state regulators have admitted they were caught off guard by the speed and scale of the project. Memphis city officials have struggled to understand the long-term implications for their municipal water supply and electrical grid. This has created a precedent that other tech companies are now studying carefully, essentially how to build first and seek permission later, while leveraging economic promises to municipalities hungry for investment and jobs.
From a business perspective, xAI also faces significant challenges. The company was projected to burn through approximately $13 billion in cash in 2025 alone. The primary commercial product, the Grok 4 API, has struggled to gain enterprise adoption due to perceived performance weaknesses compared to rivals, particularly in coding tasks. Consumer growth has reportedly started to plateau. This puts enormous pressure on the company to continue raising massive amounts of capital to sustain their infrastructure-first strategy. So what are the stakes here? Looking toward 2026-2027, when Colossus 2 is projected to be fully operational with over 1.1 gigawatts of power and approaching 1 million GPUs, xAI will find itself at a critical inflection point. Either they'll have successfully leveraged their computational advantage to leapfrog competitors and produce state-of-the-art AI that redefines the market, or they'll be saddled with the world's most expensive and underutilized AI infrastructure, having burned through tens of billions without producing a model capable of generating commensurate returns.
What makes Colossus particularly significant is how it's forcing the entire AI industry to reconsider their strategies. Companies like OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google are now scrambling to secure access to comparable compute resources. But they're finding that the supply chains and power infrastructure simply don't exist at this scale. NVIDIA is reportedly booked solid for their most advanced chips through 2026. This has created what economists call a supply-constrained market, where having committed access to compute resources has become more important than having the best algorithms or the smartest researchers.
But the implications extend far beyond xAI itself. Colossus 2 represents a physical manifestation of a particular philosophy of technological progress, one that prioritizes scale and speed above all else, even pushing regulatory and environmental boundaries. It raises critical questions. Is this capital-intensive, environmentally taxing, socially disruptive model the only viable path to advanced AI? What are the long-term consequences of concentrating civilization-scale computing power in the hands of a few rapidly moving, privately funded companies operating with limited public oversight?
Ultimately, Colossus 2 is Elon Musk's defining gamble that raw computational supremacy, achieved at any cost, is the primary determinant of victory in the AI race. It's a brute force bet on what researchers call the bitter lesson, the idea that general-purpose methods leveraging massive computation will ultimately outperform specialized approaches. The project's trajectory will not only determine xAI's fate, but may reshape the fundamental economics, engineering, and societal impact of AI development for the next decade. Whether this gigafactory of compute approach succeeds or fails will have lasting implications for how we build the future of artificial intelligence and who gets to control it. That's all for today's Mindcast. I'm Will, and we'll be watching closely as this extraordinary experiment in computational supremacy unfolds. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.